Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. Well, if you're like me, sometimes you just have to stand back, gaze and wonder, what is happening? Technology evolution in every sector seems to morph every sunrise into the next disruptive innovation, and bang, game changer. In all that wall of noise about innovation, one could miss something truly big that is happening right next door, over in Alpharetta. It's an operations center for the third largest provider of enterprise application and services in the world, Infor. Improving operations, driving growth, and quickly adapting to every game change for 70,000 customers. Yeah, you heard me, 70,000 in 194 countries. Third largest, 70,000 customers in 194 countries. Oh, and did I say in Alpharetta? Greetings, everyone. It's Friday, April 19, 2013, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. Up to the Tech Talk, real innovation that comes from agility, intelligence, and speed. After all the noise about the word, it's really all about technology advantage that gets results. The Tech Talk turns revolutionary insider to focus on a core disruption that's game-changing the world of business software, and it's all about reinventing the enterprise. The result? You can reinvent the way your business works without reinventing the wheel. After all, isn't that the true definition of innovation? Up to the Tech Talk, innovative technologies that are changing everything you thought you knew about enterprise software, as we gain the insider insights from the front line of the revolution with Steve Moroski, Senior Vice President, Platform Technology of the global enterprise software giant, third largest provider in the industry, Infor. Steve is the Senior Vice President leading platform technology worldwide. His primary responsibilities include facilitating sales of the platform technology into the installed base and to prospects, and securing strategic wins through business value, C-level, and enterprise architecture sales engagements. He brings more than 20 years of sales management and leadership to Infor, serving in various roles from account executive to professional speaker to sales executive. Most recently, Steve served as Group Vice President of Oracle's Engineered Systems, where he was responsible for building and motivating a top-performing sales team, resulting in explosive revenue growth, operational excellence, and customer success. It's a Tech Talk all about making change a competitive advantage and how rigid and cumbersome is giving way to agile, intelligent, and above all, fast. Who is reinventing the enterprise and how? As we speak with Senior Vice President, Platform Technologies at Infor, Steve Moroski. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Steve, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Dynamic times, no debate about it. Certainly the evolution of social, mobile, and applications are just impacting everyone. I think the ultimate disruptive technology has finally come upon us because all things are possible, and in that type of an environment, it opens up opportunities but also challenges. Talk a little bit about Infor, and I guess really kind of put the focus on, I think, what you guys call platform technologies.
Yeah, of course. Infor is the third largest provider of enterprise applications in the world behind SAP and Oracle. We have about 70,000 customers in roughly 200 countries. It's really interesting. Let me put that into perspective for a moment. There's only a couple of companies that have gotten larger than us, and I've mentioned two of them. We are larger than companies that a lot of your members have heard of, like PeopleSoft, Hyperion, Siebel, and others. That's how big of a provider Infor is in the marketplace.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the dynamics of being such a global enterprise, focusing down on individuals, say mid-sized companies, and also dealing with obviously the large Fortune players, the 500s and even bigger, 50s. Talk a little bit about the perspective of dealing with different sizes enterprises.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the capability is required by Similar capabilities are required by all sizes of enterprise, whether it's mid-market, whether it's small business, or whether it's a large enterprise. The key is the deployment models, right? I mean, that's why cloud has just taken off like it's taken off. Companies like Workday, Salesforce, et cetera. And, because a mid-sized company still needs the same enterprise ERP capability as a large company. It's just what is the cost of IT staff, what is the cost to maybe buy a bunch of machines, cost to deploy, cost to implement, et cetera. So I think from a raw capability perspective, the small business, the mid-market business have the same needs as the large enterprises. It's going to come down to how we're going to deploy.
Now, I guess one of the things I'm always fascinated by is that everybody that is providing solutions talks about that. They say, we provide this solution, and they don't necessarily understand that in a lot of cases, especially a small to medium-sized enterprise, just trying to keeping up with the evolution of technology. I mean, we all talk about it like it's a cliche, but when you're where the tire meets the road and you've got to make decisions on systems the way that you're talking about, the challenge is understanding what the problem is in terms of how do I identify a problem that says, okay, I see you're offering me a solution.
I think we're all our worst enemies when it comes to that, and not just the providers of the technology, but the customers themselves, right? Because all of us in this business get so excited about some of the latest and the greatest technologies that it's, sometimes that solution looking for a problem. I agree with you 100%. I mean, the key in any successful IT transformation, or even an endeavor, it wouldn't even have to be transformational, is identifying what are the business requirements, what is the business problem we're trying to solve, what is the potential ROI, and oh, by the way, this is what I see in the marketplace all the time, coming back a year later and say, did we actually deliver on that ROI? Because we're not even seeing that, even in the large enterprises, by the way. Forget about the mid-market or the small and medium businesses. What's happening is business leaders are getting these IT projects approved and funded, and no one's coming back to say, wow, did we really do what we said we were going to do?
I sometimes wonder if we go to every promise of every technology and reach out over in the next 10, 15 years, and they all deliver the promises, exactly what is it going to look like? I mean, obviously things are going to be a whole lot, I guess, user-friendly, and we're going to have a lot more enablement in terms of our ability to run an enterprise and maybe do it more efficiently with less people. Ironically enough, I think we talk about, one of the things we talk about here occasionally is the difference between jobs and work, and the fact that in a lot of cases the promise of technology is somewhat creating the fact that we really need higher grade capability, but not necessarily as many people. Let's talk a little bit about, we were mentioning earlier in terms of your platform technologies. I know that I've seen some recent press releases talking about ION, and it's obviously creating some strong momentum. According to the release, fastest growing product in your entire lineup. What is the technology, and why are so many customers jumping on it?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I mean, and let me just back up slightly because you asked this at the beginning of our conversation. Platform Technologies at Infor is a group that I am leading worldwide, and we're building out our capabilities in a couple of key areas. One is middleware and integration. One is social. One is mobile, and one is application development, and a fifth is analytics. ION is that integration component of this platform technologies. And let me tie it back to the dialogue we were just having about kind of where the space is going and solving business problems and things of that nature. If you look at deployment models and you look at capability, and the reason why ION is taking off the way it is because I like to not only play with Infor applications, especially ones that we've acquired, names like Bond, names like Epiphany, names like Lawson, who a lot of the tag membership I'm sure is familiar with. We can link all those applications together, but over 60% of our customers are deploying to third-party applications like Oracle, like SAP. We have an amazing relationship with Salesforce.com where we've pre-built a solution called Inforce, that actually allows Salesforce.com customers, and they're heavily weighted towards the mid-market, to actually then drill back into their ERP if it's in fact one of Infor's ERP applications. So the reason why we're seeing, I think, a major takeoff with this particular integration product is I'm not saying it has to be cloud. I'm not saying it has to be on-premise. I'm not saying it has to be a red stack or blue stack. I'm saying any deployment model with any back end, we can begin to tie all those applications together. And oh, by the way, it's lightweight and it's loosely coupled.
I don't know. It sounds like a coon. You never get old, you never get sick, and you never die. Well, but you know what? Begin, I think, is a key word. When you talk about beginning, because I think so many, we touched upon it a couple of minutes ago, but the concern, I think, in a lot of decision makers are what systems to get invested in and how long will they be important to me, not only in their own capabilities, not only in their efficiency, but also in terms of the technology that they provide. When you're talking about an integrated product that gives you the ability to, in effect, integrate, blend with so many different things, it would seem like that is kind of the future. It isn't about one particular way to go, but rather one system that allows you to do many things.
Well, that's right. I mean, I always like to say that we embrace heterogeneity, right? The idea that, I'm going to rip and replace all these applications that a customer has had for years is lunacy, right? There's a lot of business applications that have been around a long time that are delivering a lot of value.
Yep.
And again, as you start to talk about deployment models, then, okay, that becomes somewhat different. But, the beauty of what a lot of us are doing in the space is that kind of messaging, saying, do you want something on-premise versus in the cloud?
Now, the real question is that what is the reaction from the customers? I mean, do they really, again, this conflict of, I'll say technological turnover, we'll admit here that in many cases the vernacular doesn't even keep up with the technology. So sometimes it's hard to describe something because that word has moved on. It doesn't mean what it did a month ago. How do you educate the old Sims commercial, the best consumer is an educated consumer? Do you find that to be the case? Are they educated, or do you have to go in and kind of, explain it while you're actually presenting it?
No, two things. Number one, I think it was Larry Ellison who said that the technology industry is more fickle than the fashion industry a couple of years ago, so I think you're 100% correct. And then number two, our customers are more educated than they've ever been, right? So the idea of what I've done at my previous posts at other companies and what we're doing here at Infor is it's not coming in and just saying here's features and functionality. It's the dialogue that we're having at the top of the conversation, which is, what are the business problems you're trying to solve? How does this tie in with things like enterprise architecture, which is probably more important to the enterprise-size customers, but how does that tie into an existing architecture that I have in place? Now, most of the time, our customers have already figured this stuff out, but the idea is if we can work together and begin to vision somewhat and think what is possible on top of simply the technology, that's where any company in this space can bring value to their customers.
Wow, what I hear is trust, because what you're saying is it is a form of collaboration, but it isn't just an efficiency or a capability collaboration. It's almost a business partnership, right? I mean, The way you're explaining it, I've got to be able to know that I'm making a decision not just for today, but for the long term, when I don't necessarily even know what the long term is going to be as it unfolds. I mean, it's kind of a. Am I right about that? Or?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And you start.
So where do you find your prospects, and how do you convince them? I mean, what's the difference in terms of your innovative capabilities or the differing offerings than, say, other tech companies?
I mean, if you look, let's just take the big three that I've talked about. Okay, I've talked about Oracle, SAP, and Infor. If you look at all three of us, we're very similar in terms of how we go to market. We all have very large, what is referred to in the business as an installed base. So a lot of customers that are using components of what we already deliver and what we already make. And I like to really look at SAP as a benchmark. You look at what they did with NetWeaver and then came down, what I refer to as down the stack from middleware to database. If you look how Oracle has done it, going deeper into operating systems and servers and storage. Everyone has kind of gone down the stack of technology. What we do, which is very similar to what our competitors do, is we start with who is using our business application. That is the best place to, we already have a trusted relationship in place, right? And we at least begin that dialogue on what is the next 3 to 5 years from a business problem and visioning exercise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if I'm understanding correctly, really it's a case, more or less a proof of concept. We're already doing it.
Well, exactly. And I like to call it proof of vision or proof of value. I mean, it's slight, mixed on terms because, what I don't like is when, customer calls and says, hey, we want to, kick the tires and install this and see if it works because we don't understand all the business issues that you and I were just talking about at the top of the call. But when you understand all that, then absolutely. I mean, obviously you want to have those proof points, right?
I like proof of vision. I think I think you're in a vision in the sense that in many cases it's a conceptual concept that is in the quote unquote eye of the beholder, but proof means that it's a reality, not necessarily a vision. I mean, I think I don't want to get semantically locked down, but I don't know that visions are always goals that you can assuredly accomplish because sometimes it's something that has never been tried before. So I think proof of vision kind of really gives me some confidence in terms of trying to put embrace why I would consider you guys and understand what you bring to the table. When I hear that kind of an analogy, not just the terms, but actually showing me that, it's going to make me feel a little bit more confident in my decision.
Well, exactly. And let me just get you, even a little bit more excited. I mean, what we've done is I've actually built a team around that exact exercise. So there's two components. You've got a higher level visioning exercise where we try to put ourselves not in our customer's shoes, but in our customer's shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, and as we begin to work with then our ultimate customers, I've got experts where we can do rapid application prototyping, all on the fly. Now most of this is vision, and then afterwards it's okay, now let's see if we can actually prove it out. So it's a really super fun way to engage other than the, hey, what keeps you up at night dialogue, right? Because every CIO in Georgia is probably tired of getting that question, right? And so how can we take it a step further?
Well, I saw one of those church channel signs that said "Worry is a misuse of innovation." I think it's a case where, in so many cases now, because of the mandate of the enterprise, the mandate of the CTO, CIO, the chief operating officer, to make a decision, and in many cases doesn't really know the next surprise that's going to be around the corner, the next disruptive technology that's going to impact them. Being able to walk out that way, you say it's fun, and I'm sure it's going to be entertaining and engaging, but truly it's an exercise that's worth, in effect, its value, almost as great as the solution would be, simply because that's going to give me a sense of understanding that I may or may not have once I see all of the quote-unquote layers and tentacles.
Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what kind of feedback are you getting from your customers in relationship to all of this? Are you, when everybody talks about big data and structured and unstructured and all of the challenges that we've kind of explored with here and the vision aspect of it, I'm guessing from the momentum that we're seeing, the feedback's been pretty strong.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the feedback has been strong. And my background, I've spent a lot of time with big data and really technology in general. When I say technology, I mean database and middleware technology. Prior to coming to Infor, I spent 10 years at Oracle. And I agree with you, yes, on one hand. On the other hand, I think it's, all of this stuff is coming so fast. Everyone wants to do something with big data, but what exactly is that business problem that that's out there? I've only seen, said differently, in big data specifically, I've only seen probably 2 or 3 companies really leveraging the power of it, and not just trying to kick around some skunk works projects, if you will. With respect to Ion and kind of the social mobile cloud story, I mean that's the future, right? The idea, the key piece about social. So Ion is the centerpiece of our social strategy, much like a lot of the others that are out there, Yammer, Jive, Chatter, etc. But the thing that's really, I think, the next level with social, it's not just the idea of having a news feed. Okay, that's kind of cool. But how can I begin to take this social interface, the way I live every day, and apply it to the way I work? So how can I begin to integrate it with my not just integrate, but work with, talk to the rest of my enterprise business applications so that anything becomes social, whether it's a piece of machinery I have on my manufacturing floor, whether it's an air conditioning unit in a hotel room, right, that I can begin to take all of these social business objects and have them in this social environment, if you will. And really our view of the world is this whole concept of the Internet of Things. and when you start talking about thought leadership and where you see kind of social going, et cetera, I think it was 2012. I could be off, so don't quote me on that. But sometime in recent history, more things are now connected to the Internet than people. So there was more people connected to the Internet than things. Now there's more things than people. Matter of fact, there's a famous case of a farmer in Ireland that put sensors on his cows, right, so he could follow each of his cows, their temperature, when they were eating, et cetera, to understand how he could manage his herd. Now, that's an extreme example. But you see what I'm talking about in terms of social. You've got to have that integration framework laid down, that enterprise architecture laid down, and then the big value of not just big data and analytics and social and all these cool buzzwords is how can I begin to work the way I live, right? And that's a major paradigm that's changing, especially for the millennials.
Well, you know, I think you hit it right on the head. I think that you're talking about a generation that isn't looking at it as an abstract. They live it. It's part of their process, part of the steps that they take. That analogy that you made with the farmer, I think isn't just an exaggeration. Wouldn't you agree? That's the future. And the sooner you begin to embrace it, you know, if you're going to go out 20 or 30 years and may not even be that far and come back, and you come back to today, where do you start?
Listen,
you know?
It's here today. I mean, I can share with you a use case that one of our customers, a resort, is using today, where they've got sensors on things like buoys in the ocean, right? It's like a beachfront resort. Yeah. Where a concierge manager can follow a suite and understand if that suite needs cleaning or not, or if it's ready for one of their best customers, or that literally the ocean, you could follow the ocean, right? And while it could tweet the temperature to you to your smartphone or device.
Well, and it goes back, and I think the bottom line of it is, and unfortunately, whenever we get into a really good conversation, the kind that you're providing for our listeners today, the time runs out. But the key to the situation is that it's all feasible, it's all affordable, it's all capable. It can happen now, and to avoid it or to ignore it or to not find out more information and get involved in it, how do you compete? How will you compete in the next 6 months, the next year, the next couple of years, unless you've got this kind of relationship and this kind of trust, factor that we talked about before? Steve, psyched on. I can hear it in your voice. I certainly know it from your company's reputation. You guys are in a great spot. Not only are you doing good business, but you're doing good things for people and helping the economy and everything else evolve. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today on Tech Talk.
Hey, I enjoyed being on the program.